Welcome to the Aligned Business Podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey Kerslake, CEO of personal branding agency, Pinegateroad, and business coach to online service providers, coaches, and educators. I know that you believe that living a great life is so much more than the business that you lead or the money that you make. Each week, we'll dive into what it actually takes to live an aligned life with a business that supports it. Let's do this. This show is brought to you by the Aligned Business Academy. Are you so ready to go all in with your online business and hit six figures this year in a way that feels fulfilling and true to you? Apply now for the Aligned Business Academy. This is our signature program that helps you scale your online business with one-on-one and community support, a framework for learning all things online business, and a proprietary 3-part system for scaling while working way less than you are now. Say hello to more freedom, income, and impact. Apply now at pinegateroad.com/academy. That's pinegateroad.com/academy. Hi there. I am so excited to be back here. It has been way too long. I looked at the last episode that I posted and it was March of 2019. It's currently July of 2020. And yay, season 5, we're here. I wanted this episode to really just catch you up on everything that has been happening, in the past year in my life and my business and all of the things, and really share the intention for this season with you. What I have been going through, I have been wanting to almost write these little love letters to you. I have been creating notes and really just creating all of these topics that I wanted to share about, that I wanted to share my opinion, to talk with you about. And well, they're going to come to life in the podcast. So I'm very excited for that. I have a lot of stuff that are in my Evernote. I keep all of my notes and everything in the system called Evernote. If you don't use it, it's amazing. It's like my brain on the internet. And I'm really excited. I have also been secretly podcasting behind the scenes and, well, not turning it into anything, but I've been podcast diarying. Yeah, podcasts. I've been recording myself as I've been going through things this past year. I'm a little afraid to go listen to them though. So they're here, they're on my computer, and I'm going to see how I can bring some of that into play here, because there have been some pretty raw moments this past year. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be neat to just record this and have it for later? And now I'm afraid to go back. But maybe I will be sharing some of that with you, because I know that sometimes it's one thing to share about something from, having worked past it, but how does it actually feel when you're in the middle of it? And that's what I wanted to capture. I knew that I wasn't in a place to post any of those things or bring the podcast back, but I wanted to have them so that you could actually feel with me what it feels like to go through certain things that have been going on. So I have those. Get ready. This season, I really want to be leaning into what it truly takes to create an aligned life of your own design. This is something that I've obviously been doing for a really long time, intentionally choosing how I wanted to be creating my life, and then having that financial freedom and creating that business that supports it. And I went through this weird thing where last year, I realized that everything I had been working towards, everything that I had been designing in my life and really ramping up the business to support it, it happened. And it's a really cool place to be, but it's also this place where you're like, okay, I did all this stuff and I worked really hard to get here. Now what? And last year was really about me becoming a mother, having a baby, and really reimagining what my next phase of life was going to be like, what the business was going to be like, what, being a mother and running a business was going to be like. And it was it was very up and down. So I'm excited to catch you up on some of the things here. And I'm sure that I will be diving into a lot of the various aspects throughout this season. But I just wanted to spend this episode catching you up. So for those of you who are new here, that this is your very, very first episode, hello, it is so good to have you here. I promise they're not going to all be as rambly as this. This is just my diving in again. I'm, learning to talk alone in my office again. I haven't done it in over a year. So here we are. But for those of you who are new here, I'm Kelsey. Hello. I started this podcast in 2016, and it has really grown with me and been this place to just share how I've been growing business, how I have been really diving into the intricacies of life. And I have been bringing on guests and people that I found interesting and just wanting to have really awesome conversations with. I love diving into people's stories, how they started to where they're going now, the lessons learned in between, and how they are really creating lives that are in true alignment with who they are, working past those things that are sometimes the uncomfortable thing, the hard thing, and really doing it anyway because they know that that thing on the other side is worth it. And I love hearing those stories, those before and afters. So I'll probably be bringing more of those on, but I don't have anything scheduled just yet. I really want to spend some time with you diving into some of those topics that I've been writing on in the background for the past year. So for a while here, it is going to be just me. And then I guess a little bit about me and my business. I am the CEO of pinegateroad. It's a personal branding creative agency. So we focus on online personal brands and we help people bring them to life through business strategy, through design, sales strategy, their websites, their social media, really everything. If you know that you want to be building a personal brand and you're like, how in the world do I stand out? How do I share my voice? How do I get this all going online in a way that truly makes sense and actually sells what I'm doing to my target people? Then we're the company for you. I would love to chat. You can head to pinegateroad.com and fill out an application to work with us. So that has been the creative agency. I've been growing that since 2011. And this past year, when I had my baby last April, I really got to a point where I'd grown up. I'd grown team. The business was scaling, thriving, all of the good things. And I decided that I wanted to step fully into only doing the creative direction and the strategy for our clients. So what I do is I'll really work with our clients at the beginning part of their experience, and we will dive deep after they've done some of the pre-work, and I will get all of the strategy figured out. We'll figure out the direction for their project, and then from there I will be approving things. I will be making sure that things are creatively aligned, bringing some of my thoughts and all of those things into the project, but really the team is taking over from there and executing. So I'm getting out of the doing, and I have fully moved into doing my genius level work, which really is that creative direction and the strategy. And I've hired people who are insanely talented at what they do to support our clients in all of the different other aspects in their project. And that was a huge thing that I was undertaking over the past 2 years. And last year, it really got to a place where I was able to take that leap into just doing my genius work. What that left me with was a lot of time, one, to raise my baby, but at the same time, I got to think about that next version of my life. Now that my business was more or less running without me having to be in every single detail, what was I going to do with all of that extra time that I had? What do I want to do with, I just had all of these passions and these dreams, and it was almost like this sky's the limit mentality. And I was in this place where I was like, okay, well, I created all this white space in my life. Now what? And that feels really insane, saying that I created all this white space when I had a newborn. But at the same time, yeah, I was going through a lot there. But when it came to my business, I did have a lot more time to really see what I wanted to do next. It was this really fun time of, well, it wasn't necessarily fun. I was really beating myself up over, not knowing this huge future direction that I was heading in. But I had this time and space to wonder, where do I head next? What things am I interested in now that I've built this time and space into my life? So that was a lot of last year, figuring that out. And I've really come to a place where I've leaned into becoming a business coach. And it's still a hat that I feel a little weird wearing. I guess within my agency, the business coach role is really what I thrived in. It was, seeing that creative vision, how the visuals of that vision work out, diving into the business strategy, and then, letting the team take it from there with still my approval and all of the things. So I really leaned into business coaching this past year. And that's where I'm really ending up. I'm loving being this person that gets to help people step into their big visions of their lives and helping them kind of like clear all of the mindset crap that is holding them back from actually stepping into that, because there is a lot of mindset stuff that is holding us back from getting to where we want to go. There's the fear, there's the ego, there's the I'm not good enough and I'm not ready and I don't have the money and I'm not willing to go do anything to go make it so that I can step into this next level. And I love helping people work through that. So, and mixing it with really top-notch business strategy, if I do say so myself. Okay, so that is kind of where I am at. I am putting on the hat of business coach now. I have a program called the Aligned Business Academy, and I have a mastermind that I'm running, and I'm really just loving supporting. It's all women, actually. So I'm loving supporting women in these next phases of their lives and kind of like blowing up their businesses, helping them step into their genius work a lot less, make a lot more money, and really create that time and space and freedom within their own lives so that they can go do more of what they love. It literally fuels my soul, like being able to do this with people. So that is where I am now. Backtracking, I guess, into this past year. Last March 2019, my husband and I moved across town. We live in Cleveland, Ohio, and we moved from the west side to the east side to be closer to his work. So we moved into this neighborhood. We're in like total suburbia, which is interesting. We moved from a townhouse where we could kind of walk places, walk to restaurants. It wasn't super urban or anything, but we had that flexibility. And now we live in total suburban neighborhood area. It's a really diverse area, which is really, really nice. I love being able to bring my son up in a place that has diverse population, which is awesome. Where we moved from was really not diverse at all. And yeah, we are pretty far from a lot of our friends in town. Not that it technically matters right now because of the pandemic, but before it was hard. We were kind of isolating ourselves on this side of town because we were probably 45 minutes away every time we wanted to go see our friends or anything like that. So that was a big move. Moving across town, not huge, moving to a different city is a whole other thing, but we decided to move. I was 8 months pregnant. It was right around when I stopped doing this podcast, and came to this side of town. We have an 80s house, so a lot of updating that we've been doing over the past year. It's been fun to really put our own stamp on this home, painting walls and updating handles and cabinetry and all of these things. And I'd say it's like a fourth done. So I am constantly diving into like, how can I make this space feel more like myself? It's been hard since our son Carter has turned into a toddler and he's like running around everywhere. He doesn't, I don't know. When he was a baby, we got to just put him in, a little a thing, like a pillow or something, and he would just be like hanging out on the floor. He would stay there, and now he's just running around everywhere. So less time for house stuff. But yeah, that has been our last year, kind of diving into bringing this space to life, having the baby. Huge. So we had our son Carter last April. That has been obviously one of the biggest changes in our lives. Really transitioning to being a mom and being a business owner has been nuts, but good. I personally had a lot of mental troubles transitioning to being a mom. It was hard for me to give up a lot of my, that individual time, I would say, where now my whole life revolves around this other human. So there's this transition that I've been going through of, okay, Kelsey, not everything is about you. Which, yeah, duh, I should have realized a little bit before. But here we are. And I have been, really just making it by enjoying, raising a baby and all that entails. I will also say that a lot of my life before this was working up towards this. I know if you've been listening to the show for a while that you know my battle with endometriosis and infertility, growing my business to a place where I could take off time to have a baby and still have my business support me in the lifestyle that I wanted to be living. And really, last year, it was like, whoa, this all happened. Everything that I've been planning for, everything that I had been dreaming about, down to, having the house and my own office space and having the baby and the husband and growing a garden and all of these things that I had really been looking forward to, it was here. And as happy as I have been and was when all of that happened, there was this kind of lack of drive behind doing next things. I didn't know where to head. Everything that I'd been hoping for happened. And what do you do when you get there? There's just this whole other set of, okay, what's next? Like, what do I put this extra energy towards? What do I put, what am I passionate about? When I had Carter, I think that with, the hormones and all of the things happening, and then not really knowing the direction of where I wanted to head next, I had some pretty severe postpartum depression. And that is a huge reason why, I wasn't able to bring the podcast back, why I sunk in and I was like, okay, what do I want to actually be doing next? And I was really working on getting my mental health to a place where I could take these next steps and feel good about them. So I'm probably going to do another episode that's all about my postpartum depression because there's a lot of nuances there. And for those of you who have experienced this, who are potentially afraid of experiencing this, I just want to share my story here because I know how important that can be, and just hearing other people's journeys and knowing that you're not alone with this kind of stuff. So know that episode is coming. So that was like a huge part of me transitioning into being a mother and really just trying to take care of myself so that I could be okay and actually support our baby. And that is when I really started learning about subconscious reprogramming from my friend Lexi D'Angelo. She was in a mastermind with me that year, and she started diving into all of this NLP stuff and subconscious reprogramming, and the way that her life transitioned that I saw from my own eyeballs over just 6 months was incredible. This is just more proof that when you can go live what is exciting you, people are going to catch on. They're going to be like, whoa, what is she doing? So I was watching my friend Lexi just have this massive transformation in her life and her business and all of these things, and how she just seemed to be leaning into joy. Everything that was exciting her, she was just sharing about, and it was so inspiring. And I was like, hey, Lexi, what is this? I don't know what NLP is. I don't even understand what subconscious reprogramming is. But I'm interested. So this was one place last year where I just decided to dive into something that felt aligned, but I had no idea where this was going to end up. I honestly still don't necessarily know where this is all going to end up, but I decided to go through her certification program that she was bringing to life. I was in her first cohort, and I started last September being trained in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, time techniques, life and success coaching. And this is something that I have been working on throughout the past year. And it's been really, really cool. I think in that time, I was looking for something that would help me transition my life out of just being a mom and, just being a business owner and learning about what these next steps could be. And this really supported me in that time in my life. And it's still supporting me. I really love diving into this stuff. It's kind of that missing link between saying you want something and saying you're going after something. And it is what is working on beneath the surface. How you're integrating daily habits, how your brain is getting repatterned to actually work for you in your big goals. This is stuff that I'm working into every single one of my programs, how I'm coaching people, all of the things. It's basically shed this amazing light on everything that I've been doing. So I'm sure a lot of this will be coming into play in this season as well. Be diving more into that. So I am a subconscious reprogrammer, and I bring that into all of my coaching. Another thing that happened last year is I reworked what was the Pinegateroad Academy, and I turned it into the Aligned Business Academy. And the Pinegateroad Academy was my mentorship program. It was really limited to, I think I had no more than 12 students in it at one time because I was giving one-on-one mentorship with these students. So I had been coaching. I've been coaching for probably 2 or 3 years now, but I really saw myself as an agency owner and not as a business coach. And I think that is what has switched over this past year. I was able to fully embrace being an agency owner and really step into that leadership role as the CEO in that business. And then I've been able to really grow this coaching side of my business this past year. So I reimagined what Pinegateroad Academy could be. A lot of it hadn't changed. There were things that I was doing with the one-on-one client work and some of the processes that we are working through and all of those things. What I did when I started to transition and scale the Aligned Business Academy is I really started to take all of these things that we were working on one-on-one with my clients, and I brought it into this group experience because it was always like a little bit of a group. But what was happening is I would have months where we'd have these themes and we'd work through different aspects of bringing your online business to life. And what was happening is people would be at different places in their businesses. Not everybody would need to learn how to hire at one time. Not everybody would need to know how to really strategize their website for sales at one time. So while I was going through the Pinegateroad Academy and bringing these different lessons to life every month, I realized that I almost needed to have this bank of trainings that people could go to at different times, but also be guided towards which section would be most beneficial for their businesses based on where they are as an individual and where they are as a business owner. So I revamped the Aligned Business Academy, and I created this really basically my dream program, everything that I wish I had as I was growing and scaling my business. And it's all there. There's one-on-one support with Academy coaches. You get my insight, so I get to kind of like call out all of that stuff that is holding you back from stepping into where you want to go and guide you towards those next places. We have an amazing community. It's an evergreen program, so you can actually, people are joining all of the time, which really invigorates the community. I've noticed that in the past when there was a start and stop time on the Academy, what was happening is that like people would be really excited and working towards all of these things at the beginning, but it would kind of like, as life went on, they would slowly drip off. And by the end, it was like, okay, like they did these big things, but it was, there was a little less energy towards the end. And now that the Aligned Business Academy is like, people are constantly coming in, it basically brings this new energy and excitement to the program every time somebody's joining. And it's really fun. You can learn more about this at pinegateroad.com/academy if you want to see what it's all about. But that was a huge thing this past year. And I really was able to bring a lot of that mindset training into what I was doing there. Because what I was also finding is that so many people, they had these goals. They had the money goals they wanted to hit. They had the life goals they wanted to hit. But what was holding them back was really some internal stuff. It was the feeling of not having confidence, of putting themselves out there, of not being able to charge more for their services, not being able to think long-term or big picture with how they were growing their businesses. And all of this stuff came down to some of these limiting beliefs that were inside of themselves, holding themselves back. So here's an example. If I say to you right now, you can charge $100,000 for your service, like what comes up for you? I know that's probably a bigger number if you're like, no, I can't. That's impossible. Nothing is worth that much. Those are all limiting beliefs. And as much as like, I'm not charging $100,000 for any service, but there are people who are. And I want you to lean into that because there are people who are making that happen. This is, in the grand scheme of the world, possible. And the only thing holding you back from charging that much is saying that you are. I'm not there yet. I'm still working through my own stuff, but it really does come down to like, what are some of those thoughts that you were thinking there? Those are some of the things I want you to start to lean into and say like, why am I thinking that? Am I just limiting myself? And maybe it's not $100,000, but maybe it's going from charging $1,000 for a logo to charging $5,000. That's a very doable number. And if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. Why is that? Really thinking about that. Those are some of the beliefs that we are working on reprogramming so that you can actually start to confidently show up and charge that amount. Those are the things that are going to make a huge difference in your life, in your business, and all of the things. So that's kind of how I've been pairing a lot of that subconscious reprogramming with my business coaching. And it goes with so many life things too. Things that people think are so impossible for them to do, or their first instance is to hold themselves back. We can dive into that. That's what this has been so exciting to just bring into my work in so many ways. So that has been really the past year. I started this year and the Academy was going. It has been growing and growing. It's really exciting. This has been my biggest focus this year. Now that agency is running, it's going smoothly. I feel like I have, really been able to own this next step of where my business is heading, of where my life is heading. This like mix of being a home with my baby and being a mom, but also growing this business where I'm really only doing the stuff that I love to do. It's a really fun place to be in. It took, a decade to get here, but I'm here. I'm able to focus on what I love and it's amazing. And going through my notes here. Okay, so we're kind of in like January-ish of this year. Aligned Business Academy is running. And this is when I actually was really prepping to become a speaker. So this is something I started leaning into this year. I was like, okay, who is Kelsey Kerslake as a human outside of just being, the CEO of Pinegateroad? And I decided that I really wanted to start building my own personal brand a little bit. I'm tiptoeing into this. You're getting my weird behind the scenes right now. And part of that was becoming a speaker, going into summits and conferences and leading some of these things as an expert, as a speaker, things like that. So last November, it was the day before the Alt Summit conference was closing submissions, and it was the middle of the night, and I was like, going to Alt Summit was something that I did in 2013. I went there and I was like, if I ever got to be a speaker, this would like change my whole life. I would feel like I've made it. And it was the night before the submissions, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to submit. I'm going to see what happens. And over time, I did get chosen to speak at Alt Summit, all about Pinterest and how we can be growing our online personal brands through Instagram and YouTube and all of the things, and using Pinterest to fuel those. So I was prepping for my speech this whole past January, February. It was at the end of February. I think I spoke on March 1st, and I went to Palm Springs. This is right before all of the pandemic hit. I was in a room of 500 people. I was so nervous, but I gave my first speech, my first talk, and it was so exciting. And then the pandemic hit. I have not done anything like that since, obviously. I don't think a lot of people have, but that was a really fun thing to step into, and I'd love to do more of that in the future. So if you want to see me speak on things at a summit or a conference or anything like that, let me know. Reach out to me on Instagram. I am available. So that's something I've been wanting to do more of. And I think that getting this podcast going again is something that, I'm speaking here, I'm talking to you, I'm able to share about some of these things that I've been learning and leaning into in the past year and decade as I've been building my own aligned life and business. So that was before pandemic. I think that was a real highlight for me. I was very, very excited to do that. And then I came home. Everything pretty much shut down. I've been staying at home since then. I lost childcare. So I've been working during Carter's nap times only. He also decided to go down to one nap a day. So I only had about, I would say max 10 hours of time that I could actually work on my business per week, which was kind of cool because I strategized and designed my business in order to make that possible. But what I was really missing was that time for me to work on these next things and dream and really get excited about those next things. I didn't have that time and space to get creative and have fun with my business again. It was all about, I was having fun, but it was really about getting the things that I needed to get done to actually keep the business running. And it was less about dreaming about these next things. So that's where I've been. I finally got childcare again 2 weeks ago. I broke down and I decided to get a nanny. And the reason I say broke down is because I'm really afraid of the virus. I'm immunocompromised. So that has been something I've been battling with. I've had a lot of anxiety around the pandemic, around going outside, all of the things. I feel like I'm this internal battle of scaredness around everything. But I realized that I did need some support. I did talk through some worst case scenarios with my husband, and that actually bringing to life some of those worst case scenarios can sometimes help me see I'm afraid of this and it's not going to be that bad. So here, we can go do this. I do this with business things too. It's really diving into what are we really afraid of here? What is actually holding us back from taking this next step? If we can actually say out loud that thing that we're really afraid of, then that is the first step of being ooh, is this worth this worst case scenario? Is this worth not doing that thing that has the potential to really support me right now? this, like, I do this with every investment, honestly, too. I'm always like, I'm going to lose all my money and my business is going to be over and I'm going to like be homeless on the streets. And that's not really the worst case scenario, at least in my case. So diving into what that is can be really huge. So that, yeah, I've been in virus mode. I finally have support. I'm so excited. It's just 2 days a week for 8 hours. So 4 days. 4 hours, 2 days a week that I have right now, and then Carter's nap times. So a little bit more time here to dive into fun things like bringing the podcast back. And then something else I've also been diving into is, since George Floyd's murder, obviously the social justice movement has been huge. This is something I have been working on, I think, a little behind the scenes. If you remember my friend Megan, she's been on the show several times. She was my project manager in the past. She has been a social justice advocate for a really long time. And we were always having these conversations behind the scenes. It's really how I've been, forming my team, and it's been informing a lot of the things that I've done in my business, and how I've supported people and, I guess, visions, I don't know, in my life. And with this, it's been like, ooh, I wasn't talking about this. This isn't something that it was happening behind the scenes, but this is not something that I felt like I was either informed enough to actually verbalize and speak about. And that's something that I want to change a little bit more. I want to dive into some of the politics, into social justice, into what freedom really means as individuals, but also as a society. Because freedom has always been a huge core value of mine. It is why I say it's an aligned business, because you are really trying to say, here, I want the freedom to choose whatever it is in my life that I want to go after. And this is not something that is available for everybody. Well, I will say it is available for everybody, but it's not easily accessible for everybody because of the systemic problems that have been happening in our country. Speaking as a citizen of the United States of America. And it's something that there's a lot more of the mindset and like a lot of those subconscious things are built into people of color, into our country, because it has been passed down from generation to generation to generation, and all of the systemic racism that has been happening, and how that plays into what we realize as freedom as individuals. And we think that it's us as individuals, and really there's a lot of bigger things at play that are sometimes holding us back, that are building into those limiting beliefs. So I really want to be diving into that a little bit more, talking about it, saying, what does freedom mean to you? How can you build more of this? How can you take a baby step towards having a more quote unquote free life? And taking into account what systemically has been going on, and realizing that and moving forward with all of that being talked about and said and taken into consideration. So I think a lot of what I was doing in the past was taking what was my normal experience and really talking from a place that was saying, okay, that is my normal experience, so I'm just going to pretend that that's everybody's normal experience. And it's not. It's that was a really naive thought to have. And I want to dive into more of like, okay, here's my experience, but what are some of these other experiences that are impacting how you're showing up for yourself in your life, in your business, and making these decisions, and how are you working through this? Because my experience is not going to be the same as yours. So we're going to have to go at things from a different perspective. So there's that. We're pretty much here. I am so excited to dive into the rest of this season. Like I said, I've been taking these notes. I have all these little like subjects that I want to dive into, and they're going to be my little love letters to you. I think for the first couple episodes here, it's going to be solo episodes. I'm really excited to dive into some of these things and almost have a resource bank for people to go to, because I'm talking to a lot of people and some of these same topics are popping up over and over again. And I almost want to have these episodes where I'm like, ooh, you're going through this? Go listen to this episode. This is where I talked about that. And it'll feel really good for me to not just feel like I'm having to say the same things over and over, but to have these kind of like resource episodes that are here for you as you're experiencing these different things. This is the same thing that happened in Aligned Business Academy, where I really wanted to have that bank of all of these business resources and these mindset tools that you could go to depending on where you were at. And I want this podcast to kind of be my like public version of that, where you can come here and say like, oh, I'm going through that mindset thing, or I'm having this limiting belief, or I'm trying to scale my business with team, like coming to these episodes in order to support you through each of those different aspects. So that is going to be one of the things that I'm going to be leaning into. And yes, we're going to go from here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's really nice to be back. I feel like even by the end of this episode, I'm like, whoo, I got my voice back. That feels really, really good. So thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up for you. And I will talk to you next week. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a few seconds right now to leave a rating and review on iTunes. It's so simple and helps us so much. This is incredibly helpful for getting this show into more ears so that we can make even more impact. I'm sending you so much love. I hope you have an amazing week. You've got this.